Hey, it's me, Detroit's daughter, and I want to yap. Specifically, just a lot of things I've been observing about the quality of relationships, and I have a very specific path of topics that I want to discuss when it comes to this, and this is the beginning of that. So, here we go. Titles. I think it's very interesting that we seem to be very obsessed with hierarchies in our culture. So what I'm seeing is that some of us are not in relationships with people. We're in relationships with people's titles. What do I mean by that? We are treating titles as if they accurately define the dynamics of the relationships that we're actually in. So for instance, and I will take an example from my own life because I am no contact with both of my parents. Radical, I know. And growing up, I always had a lot of negative feelings towards my dad because he was neglectful. He was not a good father. He was not a good husband. And I was always angry at him. But my family would always hit me with but that's your dad. But that's your father. He loves you. And it's like, that is so confusing for a child who can obviously tell that they are not being loved and valued by a person, for everyone around them to tell them that that's what's happening. So that anger didn't go anywhere. It just grew and grew and grew and grew. And eventually, when I realized I was not wrong, that's when I decided to just act on what I knew was true. Therapy helped with that. And I don't even want to hear it, boomers. Shut up. You need to go too. So yeah, it was like, it wasn't until I was with a therapist, and I was not there about my family. I was there about my marriage that was failing. And I think I told the therapist something about my family, and he said, that's not normal, right? And I said, I had a feeling. Tell me more about that. And he started to show me that my instincts were correct. And it's kind of painful to know that the people around you that claim they love you the most would keep that information from you, or wouldn't be invested enough to also learn about that and to validate the feelings that you're having. I wasn't just hating my dad for no reason. Like, he literally was not a likable person, especially considering I was his first child, only child for a while, and oldest, and it just didn't matter. So, and then eventually I reached the same conclusion about my mother, just because the quality of our relationship didn't reflect that of what would classify as a healthy, loving relationship between two adult women. Like, my feelings were not being valued and regarded, and I wouldn't be friends with a person like that. And I told her that, and I gave both of them opportunities to repair multiple times. So this is not even a cut off. I didn't give you, they got plenty of chances, trust me. So please I don't want to hear that either. You can keep those comments to yourself. So again, like, we regard these titles as so sacred, but how sacred can a title be if the person holding said title doesn't honor the sanctity of the damn title? Like, it doesn't mean anything, and it's just symbolic, and it's valueless. So what I'm noticing is, even with different communities, community is becoming that. It's becoming very surface level. It's becoming commodified. It's becoming a money grab, really. So it's like, for people to commune now, you've got to pay X amount of dollars to have so-and-so experience. And it's like, people don't want to just connect anymore. And I've tried. Trust me, I've tried. Where I could be in an environment, it could even be business-like, but it's like, I just naturally have an interest in people and their stories. I always have. And this is taking me down a different path in my life as we speak, with me coming to that realization. And so I don't mind sitting down with someone and having a coffee or a meal to learn more about them and to share more about me. That's natural. That's how you get to know people. But I've been in environments where I have extended that to folks, and it gets met with either it gets rebuffed or it gets met with this surface level mutual interest or feigned mutual interest, and then it just nothing happens after that. So it's very clear that the interest is not a two-way street, and that's problematic. I find that worrisome, especially when you're talking about joining communities and being in communities of quote like-minded people who want to connect, when there's not a lot of connecting going on behind the scenes. And so it's a lot of attachment, there's a lot of contact, a lot of proximity, but not connecting. And I want to do something different in regards to that. Instead of continuing to join communities or looking for a community I can integrate myself into, I am committed now to building a community myself. That's something I've never really done. Being an only child is a little difficult. I'm very accustomed to being alone and don't mind it, but I know that I do need more community around me. And now that I have a higher caliber of people that are more aligned with my values in my life, I have a higher expectation for that across the board, and I want to build more of that. Now, I'm not saying it has to be droves and droves. I'm not even thinking that's realistic, but I know there are at least a handful or a couple handfuls of folks out there who are on the same page and that want to also connect with that. So that's part of why I'm here, to discuss that. Part of what Detroit's Daughter's mission right now is the brand Detroit's Daughter, or me. Part of my mission as Detroit's Daughter now is to do that, both locally and digitally. I quite prefer the more in your face, face-to-face, in person, in real life. But if you know how to do that in real life, you also know how to do that in the digital space. And I know people that are totally fine with that. One of my best friends right now, we don't live anywhere near each other, but I feel closer to her than a lot of people that are in my everyday life, because we do the work and we nurture our relationship. And so that's what I'm interested in. And I'm going to be talking more about this. I have a lot of different topics and ideas related to this that I will be bringing to the public square. I want to have conversations about this, actually. So the whole point of this is to put the idea forth, but also to invite you to have the conversation with me on Substack. I will be writing about this as well. There will also be some visual content related to this, and also some conversations that will be happening in a more private space, because I don't think these are great public conversations to have, because so many people get triggered by stuff like this, especially when you have the no contact conversation. Too many people get triggered. Too many people have all these different ideas and opinions that are irrelevant, because if you haven't been in the shoes of the person who made that decision, you have no clue what that's like and how difficult a decision that is to make. Even if you know it's hurting you, it's still hard, because if you're talking about parents, those are the first people you ever knew, and those are the people you've known in your life the absolute longest. So making that choice is not easy, but it's very necessary for many people. And I've heard a lot of people talk about this. I totally empathize and sympathize with them, because this is more common than we want to admit. Just because you don't take the steps of going no contact or putting your foot down and establishing boundaries with your family does not mean they don't deserve to have that. You just might not have enough courage to do it. And that's okay. Do you. I'm not here to have anybody change their mind about anything or make any other decisions than they want to make. If I can offer you a different perspective and it resonates with you, that's wonderful. But I'm not out here to try to persuade anyone. I'm sharing my story. I'm being more vocal about my experience, because I have been so quiet about it for so long, and I know that hasn't helped me in the long run, because it doesn't really tell people who I am and what I'm actually going through. So it gives the impression that I'm not going through things. And I understand that that's been, I think that's been a big disconnect in my life for a long time, because when you're in family systems like that aren't healthy, you train yourself to not let them see you sweat, to not look like what you're going through. And it ends up being more of a detriment than a benefit, because folks are going to look at you as if you don't have problems. They're going to look at you as if you don't need help or assistance, because you always handle it and you always get it done. You manage to pull through, because you'll keep it to yourself. Then after the fact, you share this horrendous experience you just had and how you battled through it and came out on the other side. And I don't think people can relate to that, because most folks are going to either break down and not be able to handle it, or they're going to solicit help from other people. And when you get trained out of asking for help and connecting with community and building community around you, you suffer in silence. And though you may get through it, it takes a toll on your nervous system. It takes a toll on your mental health. It can take a toll on your physical health. And it starts to show up in your life. It manifests in how your life looks after a while. So I'm not going to be quiet about this anymore. I think that there is a space for my voice. And I think that there are some people that probably need to hear this from someone like me. And so I'm here finally letting go of all the shame and all of the concern about what other people think. I don't give a fuck. You can give your opinion and you can make your comment. You're free to do that. But please don't think I care, because I don't. I spent way too much time caring about what other people think to my detriment. And it's not something I care to do anymore. And I'm too damn old for that. So that's what I'm coming to you with. So just be looking for more on this topic and other topics related to this. I think it'll be really interesting. Thank you for your time, and I will see you next time.